Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for spending a little bit of time on your weekend with me. I'm Liz, and today we're going to make a fun yarn craft. So if you don't have any knit or crochet skills, this is going to be the perfect fun craft for you. You don't have to have any skills, no skills required. So these are the little gnomes that we're making. And these are super simple and fun to make. This is a great craft if you want to do some kind of holiday crafting with the kiddos. They're going to love this, and it's easy to do. So if you miss anything, or if you want to just rewatch it, like she said, the class is going to be on the YouTube channel on Monday. And also, if you want to check on the past classes, I have a lot of classes on crochet mostly, and a couple knitting things here and there. So if you want to check out any of those, you can watch them on the YouTube channel. And you can check back for when I do another class. I usually do one every month, so check back for those. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you what we need to make these gnomes. We're going to flip over to my hand view here. And okay, recording. Okay, here we go. So you are going to need some acrylic yarn. The one I'm using is called Soft Classic. This one has an old label on it, but it's the new label says Soft Classic. And the colors I have are ivy, bright red, and white. But of course, feel free to use whatever colors you like. These are kind of like the classic, holiday colors, but you can just go wild and use whatever you like. Anytime I do crafting kind of things with like pom-poms and a lot of cutting of the yarn, I like to use an acrylic because it just lends itself well to have to cut like a lot of strands at a time, especially when you're making pom-pom. You're kind of scrunching all that yarn together, and it cuts really well. If you try to use something like cotton or wool, it's just not as craft friendly. So, of course, I need some good scissors. I'm going to use these little beads for the nose of the gnome or the Santa. And I'm going to use my Clover pom-pom maker. I think I'll probably use either the yellow or this teal one. Those are the ones I typically use. We'll see. See how big these are. Kind of big pom-poms, so I might use this one. I'm going to use my glue gun. So get your glue gun ready. And I'm going to use just a couple toilet paper rolls. So each one can make about 3 of the little guys, Santa / gnomes. So you can, depending on how many you want to make, you could probably get 4 out of this if you want the hat part to be smaller, but I like it kind of wide. So I cut it into thirds. And I think, and a little bit of the stuffing. So just some Polyfill or Fiberfill stuffing. We just need a little bit of that to kind of stuff in the top of the hat. Okay. So let's get going. First, I'm going to take my roll and I'm just going to cut it into thirds or quarters. Either one will work perfectly fine. Just cut it nice and even so I have kind of the base for the hat. And then I'm going to take whichever color I want to start with. Let's start with green. So if you want to do a bunch of these at a time, just get like an old book or a folder or a piece of cardboard, whatever you have. I'm going to make these pretty long just so we have extra, and then just kind of wrap this around a bunch of times. Right? So because you want a bunch of strands. Let's just start with this many because we don't need all of them, but you probably, I haven't counted, but you'll need a bunch for the hat. And then I'm going to cut one side off. And then I have some nice long strands. Okay. These are pretty long. And now we just simply have to attach these strands to the little piece of toilet paper roll that we have. So I'm going to fold it in half and have the ends meet up. And then I'm going to take that folded loop, that top loop like here, and just insert it down the center of my little roll. So that loop is coming out the bottom center. And then take those two ends and pull them through that loop. And just tighten it up. So let's do that again. So take your long strand, match the ends up, fold it so the ends are matched up, and then take that loop and just put it right through the center of your toilet paper roll and pull it on through. And I forgot to mention, you guys, if you have any questions or you want me to re-show you something, just pop it in the chat. Like I said, this is pretty simple. So, but if you do have anything, just pop it in the chat. And if you want, you can let me know where you guys are watching from too. I always like to see where everybody's watching from. I am in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a pretty cold day today. Actually, not too cold. We got a little bit of sun, but it's been cold the last couple days here in Louisville, but no rain, so that's good. So now I'm just going to keep adding these strands around. And at this point, you can get creative like I did with this one, and you can do like one green, one white, make little stripes, or do kind of like 4 and 4, however you want to do it. You can get creative, and it doesn't have to be this size yarn. This is a medium worsted weight. You can use a thicker yarn. You can even use a thinner yarn. I would just stick to, like I said, 100% acrylic, just because it's easy to work with. Okay. So now, as you can see, I did one here where I put all those little strands exactly how I showed you, just loop those around. And then you want to just fill it up nice and full. So that way none of the cardboard is showing. Okay. So I don't know how many strands I have in here. I don't know, maybe 30, something like that. But yeah, so just put those strands around, get creative with it however you want. So now at this point, we're just going to put this aside and make this part, which is the pom-pom. So simple, simple. Let's try. Can't decide if I want to use the bigger one or the smaller one. We might have to experiment and see. I can't remember when I made this, which one I used. So these are easy to use if you've never used them. You just take this part, flip it over that way, and then you take the other part with these little tabs and flip it over this way. And then we're going to feed the yarn around this little like half circle. Okay. So let's grab some of the white. And the way I make a pom-pom is I start at this end and then I just kind of go around here. And I think the biggest trick to making a nice fluffy pom-pom is to keep everything as even as possible. So try to keep the same amount of yarn wraps here and here and here. And because sometimes it tends to like want to bulk up in the center. So just try to keep it even throughout by doing the same amount of wraps. So I'll just start at the end and then just start wrapping around both pieces. Okay. See how I've got both, wrap around both pieces, both half circles. And you can just kind of wrap over that little end so it stays in place. We'll just cut that later. Okay, so now wrap. So I'm doing like one wrap right next to the previous wrap as evenly as I can. And keep it nice and snug. Don't, keep it nice and tight when you wrap it, when you're wrapping it. And then I try to go all the way up to the edge with my wraps. Right? So now check. I'm just checking the chat, you guys. See if anybody said hey. Say hey in the chat. Okay, so now I'm going to go back around the other way, right? So one wrap and try to keep those wraps even. And I'm just making my way back to where I started. And this just takes some time, but like I said, it's like super easy. There's no skill required, so it's fun. It's a fun thing to do to get the kids kind of off the computer and doing something else if they're into it. I cannot get my kids into crafts for anything. I mean, I love yarn crafts. I love to crochet. I love to knit. I love to do yarn crafts, but I have two boys and they just really could care less. So if you have kids like me who wanted to do crafty things, this will be fun. Okay, so see, I'm just going back and forth and back and forth, and I'm trying to keep it nice, as even as possible. And somebody said, hey, from New Jersey, hey, from New Jersey. So I grew up in New Jersey. I was born in Elizabeth, and I grew up in Red Bank. And when I was about 16, I moved to Florida. And I was there for quite a long time until recently we moved here to Kentucky, maybe about 4 years ago. My husband got transferred for work. So yeah, hey, New Jersey, I know it well. And then Sandy asked, what do you suggest if we don't have a pom-pom maker? I have seen, it's so easy with the pom-pom maker, so I would suggest that you get one, but I have seen people do this with, you just make you might have to look it up on YouTube because I don't remember exactly all the details, but they make like a thick cardboard half circle like this. They make 2 of the half circles and they kind of just use that as the wrapper. But I don't really remember how they do the inner part. When we get to the cutting, I'll show you what I mean. But there's definitely a way to do it without a pom-pom maker, and it is with cardboard. You should just look it up on YouTube. I'm sure there's plenty of videos how to do that. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head how they do that. But yeah, Michael's has the pom-pom makers. I like the Clover ones the best, but there's a couple different styles out there that work just as pretty good. Okay, so see, I'm trying to get this just as full as I possibly can. And now it's getting pretty full at this point. And I'd say it's pretty even, like kind of the same. You want the same amount of yarn throughout. Okay, so it's barely even a half circle anymore. So now I'm just gonna kind of pull it in a little bit and then just sort of flip it so I can work the rest on this side, right? So I don't cut it or anything. I just pull the yarn over to the other side and start doing the same thing on this side. So start at the top, make my way to the other end. And like I said, this is really the best type of yarn for pom-poms. It's kind of a medium weight, 100% acrylic. I have made some pom-poms with like a cotton yarn one time, and they were super difficult to cut. Just cotton is like really sturdy. I mean, they looked pretty once I got them all cut. They worked fine, but they were just really like hurting my wrist by the end when I was trying to cut them off of the maker. Yes, sir. Okay, so Robin said hi from Chicago. Hi, Robin. One place I've never been, Chicago, although now I'm kind of close to Chicago. It's only, I think like 6 or something hours away from me now. So I think I'll go visit one day. And then Dawn said, is there a certain number turns you wrap? No, it's no sense in counting this. It's just kind of, it's not an exact science, right? I just wrap it as much as I can, as tight as I can. I mean, don't kill yourself trying to get it too tight. Just like this, you know, so it's nice and snug around there. But I just try to fill it up as much as I can, to the point where it looks like that. It's no longer a half circle, or well, it's no longer like an arc. It's more just a solid half circle, if that makes sense. Just try to get as much as you can fit in there. Oops. As much as you can fit in there. And you'll see what happens is if you don't put enough yarn, it just isn't as, what's the word? The actual pom-pom is just kind of a little bit loose, and it's not as full in the center. And it won't give you as much as of a nice round shape. Like this here, what I did, this is pretty full. So that's gonna make a nice, good pom-pom, okay? So now they look about even, same on both sides, right? So now we're just gonna close this one this way. That one that way. And then close this one this way. So it looks just like this. Hi, Kelly from Idaho. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so now you can see it's nice and pretty even all the way around. And then this is the fun part. So we're going to cut this strand off here. And then we're going to start cutting. So we're going to start here and then cut all the way over to here. And because there's this like section that separates it, that's where you kind of know where to put your scissors, so it makes it super easy. So we're just going to cut all the strands. Like so, and then I'm just going to keep going around to the other side. All those strands. There. Now, before we open this up, we need to secure all these strands, right? So I'm going to use a really long piece because I want to use my strand that I use to secure these pieces of yarn. I want to use that. I kind of want to like double use it to make the hanger for the ornament, okay? So we're going to make it really long. So it's going to go from the pom-pom all the way through to the top of the hat. We'll try it that way. So I'm going to make a pretty long strand here, right? And now just take that strand and put it right down the center of this pom-pom maker. So it's even in half, so the ends are even. So just put it right down the center, flip it over, and tie a knot. I usually tie a few knots because I don't want my pom-pom to come apart. So I tie like maybe four knots. So pull that tight. So it goes all the way down into the center. Okay, and then flip it again. And tie it nice and tight. And the other thing about this acrylic yarn, it's pretty sturdy. So if you pull it really tight, it's not going to break. If you try to use wool, it might break. Well, that's tight. Now I made a knot there, so I'm going to flip it and make another knot on the other side. And this is also good for like scrap yarn if you have a bunch of scrap yarn, because you don't really need, kind of need a lot for the pom-pom part, but for the hat, you could just use like scraps for that, you know, and do like fun colors. Okay, so I think that's good. I did a few knots. That should be nice and secure. And now I have a nice long piece attached here, which I'm going to keep attached there. And I'm going to try to use that for the hanger. Well, when I did it the first time, I kind of made a new hanger and I inserted it through the top, but it wanted to pull it. It wanted to like come all the way out. So we're going to try it this way. I think either way is fine. Okay, so now we just have to open these little tabs and pull the two. See, this is the part that I don't, there's a piece here that's, no, that's good. This is the part that I'm not sure how you would do with cardboard, where these two pieces just come apart. So you just pull these two pieces apart. Yeah. Now we have a really fluffy pom-pom and it's nice and even. So at this point, what I would do is just trim this all around and make it nice and like dense. That's the word I was looking for. You want a nice dense pom-pom. And try to get it even so it's nice and spherically shaped. Don't cut your little hanger piece. See, this guy's got a lot of, to be trimmed down more. Let's try to get it a bit more even. This is kind of the fun part too, is shaping it. I like making pom-poms with, for this project, it's supposed to be like the beard, so I kind of want it to be one solid color, but if I'm doing other things, I like to add different colors to my pom-poms because they turn out really cute. Really fun and colorful once you do the cutting, trimming part. And as you can see, it just gets, you know, it gets a little bit smaller because we're trimming all this ends off, but it gets more dense too. Now I would probably trim that a little bit more because you see there's still pieces that aren't even, but just for the sake of moving on, I'll leave it as is. But, you know, you get it even as possible. But it is a beard, so it could be fluffy. I guess it depends on what kind of final look you're looking for. If you want a perfectly round pom-pom or kind of a fluffy beard pom-pom. Okay. So now we have our little center part all ready to go. Now we just kind of have to assemble it and put it all together. Get rid of some of this fluff everywhere. Okay. So now let's grab this part. So this part, what we're going to do is take these strands and just with like all of them held together, we're going to push them through to the other side. So I'm just going to push those through. So that way this is the base of the hat and this is the top of the hat. And we're going to trim these as well. Okay, now so I can add a little height to this. I'm going to add some of the polyfill in here. So first let's secure these all together. It's nice and tight here. Let's secure these together with a piece of the red. I'd give it like maybe an inch and a half or so, or however you want it. It's not, like I said, it's not a, it's your time to get creative. It doesn't have to be exact. So that looks pretty good. And I'm just going to tie a knot around here to secure all those strands. And that should work. Okay. Get a little bit of the polyfill and put it in here. We can, not too much. We can add some glue, but sometimes it gets a little difficult because the glue kind of, you know how it is with the glue gun, it gets a little messy. So I'm just going to do it like this. There we go. I don't think we need any glue there. So now that gives that a little bit of height for kind of like the top of the hat. Okay, now I want to attach this part, but I want to try to remember, like I was saying, make this the hanger. So what I'm going to do is grab a yarn needle like this and try to just insert that through that bit of polyfill, and that'll kind of keep it in place too. And hopefully it will go through easily and won't give me too much trouble. So I'm just gonna go in here. There we go. And then I'm gonna come out through the top inside where I tied it to secure it. And just pull that all the way through. Now I can just tie a knot here, and then this can be like my tie part. Now, if you don't want to use the white, if you want to use like if you want to make your tie red, then I would just do it in a separate strand and then do the same thing. Just insert that strand through the polyfill. You might want to just knot it on the other. If you do it that way, make a knot here and then put a little bit of the glue right there so it doesn't come all the way out. You know what I mean? This one's not going to, because it's attached to the ball, but if you do a separate one, you're going to want to make sure it stays in there. So just do a little knot and do a little glue. That's how I did it when I did these guys. But I thought I want to try this way. Okay, so now before I pull it all the way through, I am going to add some of the hot glue here. And it looks like it'll be in place. All right, so I'm going to add it around the edges so I don't touch this part too much. So if my glue gun is ready, which it is, I'm just going to try to add some of that around the edges. All that. So there we go. Okay, and now that is glued on there. I don't think that's going anywhere. Perfect. Now I'm gonna trim these red parts. Let me pull this out of the way so I don't trim my little hanger. And you can make them longer, you can make them a little shorter. I did them pretty short, I guess like about an inch cut off, so you have only about an inch left. So it just looks like a nice little pom-pom on top. These two. Right, now that I have my little tie, I'm also. Say about here, not the end, and now I have a little hanger that's already made. Just tie a little knot there. There we go. That's a good hanger. And also, if you want to do the separate hanger, like I said, you could use, like, if you have some like pretty decorative, like the gold kind of thread or something like that, or you could really just attach one of those like metal ones that you get when you buy the baubles and things. Okay, so now I think I'm gonna add a little bit more glue here so it's squished in there a bit more. So now, since I'm adding more glue at this point, I'm gonna add the little nose as well. So I can just do all that at once. Because there's like a section right here, and you want to kind of have the nose where it's like sitting inside all of that yarn like that. So it's kind of not like sticking on the top like that, right? You know what I mean? So we want to kind of bury it in there a little bit. So I'm going to add some glue right there. I'm running out of glue. And not that I want to use the side, not where the hole is, right? Just put this side right in there. So it's kind of buried in there. And then you can add a little bit. Let's see if this guy's running out of glue. I'm going to add a little bit to need a refill here. Okay. So add a little bit carefully just to kind of cover up that everything there. A little bit here. And if it gets messy, which this one did a little bit right there, I'll just like kind of peel that off. But I want that nose kind of buried in there. And then I can add a little bit more here. So it's in there more. Well, you guys, that's it. That's all there is to it. This guy looks pretty cute. Now, like I said, I would maybe trim my beard a little bit more, but really it looks just as cute as can be like this. And it's always fun to kind of add different colors, change it up a little bit, use your scrap yarn, use whatever you have around, and you have a fun little Christmas ornament, holiday ornament, handmade. So I think that's, yeah, I know you guys were with me because I didn't have any questions. So I will just say thank you for sticking around with me. Thanks for going through this whole little gnome project with me. And thanks for spending a little bit of your weekend with me. And make sure to check out the upcoming classes because I do one every month. You're welcome, Robin. Thanks so much for being here. And I hope to see you guys again in the next class. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye, everyone.